if you missed the first part, I laid out an introduction to the foods that you'd be eating, the foods that you could eat to be healthy as a vegan, and foods that you could be unhealthy as a vegan, but regardless, eating vegan. And in this video, so I'll leave a link now on the screen, you can check that out. But in this part 2, I'm going to be showing why the foods that I recommend, so basically starches and fruit, is the healthiest way to live, healthiest diet. The human species specific diet is actually starch, based on starch and fruit. And more specifically, I'm going to talk about why this is because of the macronutrient breakdown. Okay, so you can find this on the nutrient content, so typical nutrition values per 100 milliliters or 100 grams. And I'm going to show you why. Okay, and also we're going to combat what might be holding you back from getting healthy, and that is your fear of sugar. Okay, sugar. Yeah, we're going to try and combat that fear today, because that might be not just the protein thing, the protein issue, which isn't an issue. Okay, there's no such thing as protein deficiency. There is the argument very clearly to be made that actually we're suffering from overnutrition of macronutrients, fat and protein, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So starches and fruit. So what am I talking about? So literally, if you want to be successful in your change to eat a vegan diet, what this means is you're going to change your diet to one based on starch. So this is a 10 kilo bag. So literally starch staple foods. And what I mean by that is foods like white rice and potato, corn, beans, pasta. I always promote the highest carbohydrate calorie foods. So I actually recommend, and it works for a lot of people, most people, that they stick to white rice. Okay, white rice is a starch staple. And the reason for this is because, there you go, I'll lift it up. It's all about carbohydrates, okay? So as you can see here, 84 grams. And yeah, that's 84 grams of carbohydrate. So the reason why we're looking for high carbohydrate, and also at the same time as high carbohydrate, hopefully you can see there, fat. Okay, fat here, 0.5 grams, and protein 8.1. So carbohydrates, fat and protein. What we're looking for to be healthy is high carbohydrate, low fat, low protein. So the reason why we want to not eat a sugar diet, because I've already said it's a diet based on starches and fruit. What starch and fruit is that sugar isn't. Sugar is literally pure in its just glucose and fructose. So this is sucrose. So sucrose is a fructose and a glucose, okay, stuck together. And what is lacking in sugar, so white table sugar, is you've got essentially the rest of the minerals and vitamins as well you're getting with these starches and fruits. So you've got some fruit in the background, but you're lacking fiber. Okay, that's another thing you're lacking. And well, this is a pure macronutrient, so essentially it's missing everything else. But you know, white rice, very, very high carbohydrate, but you're also essentially, white rice is sugar wrapped in starch, and then all of the other essentials that you need. So you've got your omega-3 and omega-6 essential fatty acids, and you've got all of the micro and macronutrients and the macronutrients in the ratio that you need them. Okay, so high carbohydrate, low fat, low protein. And we want high carbohydrate because the body runs on sugar, so glucose derived ATP. We want lots of carbohydrate, so we're full of energy, we're never tired, and we don't need to resort to drinking coffee and other drugs. And we want low fat. Okay, we want low fat because the fat you eat is the fat you wear. So what you can do is you can either choose to get your energy from sugar, and this generally is plant foods, starches and fruits, or you can choose to get your energy from fat, which is generally more processed foods. So obviously we're vegan, so still it can be pizza and cookies and ice cream, high fat foods, popcorn, crisps. And yeah, you can have something like potatoes, which I've said that's a starch. But what happens is fast food takes the magnificent potato, cuts it up, and cooks it in oil and destroys the beauty of the potato in its ability to provide you good health. So here's the donut paradox. Okay, this is the donut paradox. So I have sugar, so I'll place it on top of the sugar. Okay, right there. So what you need to realize is, to be healthy, you need to diverge, okay, from the current path, which is what most people choose. They go down this path to the right. Okay, they choose the fat, and they believe that it's all these foods, the starches and the fruits on the left here. They believe it's the sugar which is making them fat and not the fat. So we can see this as the paradox of the donut. So people believe the donut makes you fat because it's full of sugar. But they don't see it that it's basically a ring of fat. It's a ring of fat with sugar on it. So I think the sugar industry is missing something in their marketing at the moment, because all you ever see is, here, healthier. So this is a bottle of oil, and as you can see, total fat, it's almost 100% pure fat. Healthier, it's talking about, you got your omega-3, omega-6 there. Okay, what you need to know about omega-3 and omega-6: there's never been a single animal on the planet that's ever made omega-3, omega-6. It comes from plants. Okay, so animals lack the enzyme, the desaturate enzyme, in order to create these essential fatty acids. Comes from plants. And it only ends up in fish because, okay, so got some sea life here. So it only ends up in the sea life because they're eating plants, or other fish eat those fish that eat plants, and then you end up, okay, so they go nom 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 nom, and that's how it gets into their bodies. So you just eat the plants. So if you choose to go down the path of the sugar, i.e. starch and fruit, you will do well. If you choose to go down the route of the fat, you will do poorly. And we know this because Western culture is a fat and protein culture of meat and cheese and eggs, poultry, fish, these sorts of food, bacon and eggs. And then a little bit of sugar that's in the donut gets blamed for all of that obesity. So if you were to compare, the amount of carbohydrate, for example, in this tin of beans, okay, So what you need to know as well when you're making these food choices is all sugar is carbohydrate and all carbohydrate is sugar. So when you're looking at the nutritional value, just look at carbohydrate. Don't bother even looking at sugars. Just look at carbohydrate and say, well, there you go. So 14 grams. So just in a can of beans, you'll probably be getting the same amount of sugar that's in a donut. But if you're going to eat beans, or maybe if you eat canned fruit like this, that's got 16 grams of carbohydrate. You're going to have probably as much sugar in this canned fruit as there is in this donut. Okay, so if you're eating canned fruit all day, or donuts, or canned fruit for lunch and breakfast, dinner, or donuts, you're going to end up looking very different. Okay, so to get healthy, you have to break free from the donut paradox. Okay, it's fat is the problem, not the sugar. And it becomes obvious because if you choose the path of sugar, which is starch and fruit, just looking at epidemiological studies, so you look at people around the world and you go, well, everyone is fat. Well, not everyone, but a large percentage of the US, Europe, increasingly in Asia, where they eat maybe rice because they're starting to incorporate more oils, more fats, more meat, more dairy, more eggs, bacon. So they're shifting. So around the world where they're moving from the more low-fat foods, they're going from the low-fat foods to these plastic foods, these high-fat foods. So over here, these are 50% fat, 50% protein. So lots and lots of fat. Versus if we think about people who traditionally eat maybe in Asia, you think of the Vietnamese, you think of Thailand, you think of China, you think of beautiful lean people, and then you think of Americans and you think of fat people. This is the joke now that's becoming of the Western culture, is all of these fat people. And even in Western culture is starting to laugh at itself, and all these people are overweight. And it's this choice. Okay, it's this choice here. You see the oil or you see the sugar, you see lots of oil and fat, and then you just conned by the food industry, by this marketing. Simply you just see healthier and you think, wow, okay, sugar needs to have on it 0 fat free. Okay, diet sugar. You could say sugar is diet oil. Okay, so this pack of sugar here, okay, is the diet version of this bottle of oil, because this is fat free and this is pure fat. Okay, pure fat, fat free, pure fat, fat free. Isn't that great? And then these plant foods, these come low fat, low protein. So also low protein because you want to protect your kidneys. So the main function of the kidneys is to excrete nitrogen, nitrates, and you only find them in protein. So there's the donut. That's the donut paradox. So sugar, as you can see there, 0 fat, 0 protein. But obviously, you don't just live on a bag of sugar. Okay, we'll put that to the back there. Now that we've got through that, I've shown you the rice, shown you the beans. So you could also have corn. So there you go. You could also have corn. That's the breakdown there. You can have fruit juices. So you can see these are high carbohydrates. Some peas. What you're seeing is these are high carbohydrate, low fat, low protein foods. Got some pasta here. Low fat, low protein, high carbohydrate. These are what plant foods are. So obviously, there's not a breakdown for the nutritional value of these, but maybe they're small bananas. Get some bigger. Maybe a nice ripe banana. So one nice ripe medium banana would be about 20 grams of carbohydrate, but very low fat. So less than 1%. Quite often these starches, like white rice, maybe 1% by fat. The beans, about 1%. So just look at the nutritional breakdown on the packaging and go by the general rule as high carbohydrate as you can. So your staple dishes should be based on carbohydrate based starches, and then with those starches you can add other starches like corn, you can add beans, but always stick to the highest carbohydrate containing starches should make up most of your dish. Okay, so if you're having a dish of white rice, it should be mostly rice with maybe just 1 can or half a can of sweet corn and half a can of peas, or half a can of beans with half a can of sweet corn. But mostly white rice if it's white rice, mostly pasta if it's pasta. You can, so if that was for dinner, you can have that with some fruit juice. And yeah, if you want to choose, again, you can if you want to, it's all vegan. But, here's the equivalent, as pizza. So per 100 grams, that's 11 grams. Okay, so there's 11 grams. So here's a pizza. So 11 grams of fat per 100 grams. And compare that to the pasta. Okay, compare that to the pasta. The pasta has 31.5 grams of carbohydrate per 100 grams. So it's got 3 times the amount of carbohydrate for the same amount of weight. Sorry. So it's got the pizza has 26 grams of carbohydrate but 11 grams of fat. The pasta has 31.5 grams of carbohydrate but only 0.4 grams. So you're getting more carbohydrate per 100 grams in pasta than you are in the pizza, but you're getting only 0.4 grams of fat in the pasta than you are in the pizza. So if you want to remain healthy, you want to lose weight, you want to restore your health, you want to stay lean, then you need to avoid these foods. And yeah, I get people, commonly they say, they have their cheat days. Okay, their cheat days. If you are eating, you have these cheat days and you have it maybe once or twice or however long. When you're having these cheat days, in inverted commas, you're just taking, 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. So if you are committed to being healthy, then you eat like this and you commit to it and you enjoy eating to feel full and satiated on starch and fruit, because sugar is the thing that's satiating. Whereas, I can understand the appeal of these processed foods where they create these recipes and they spend a lot of time and effort creating these recipes that is this idea of addiction. So I don't believe in food addiction, or maybe this idea of overeating. It becomes overeating because you're trying to satiate for fat, whereas the body runs on sugar. Sugar is the thing that's satiating. That's why these foods are so satiating when you're eating these foods, not just as a side dish along with your fries. If you're eating your main staples of fries, burgers and donuts, and then maybe you just have a glass of orange juice, or maybe you just have a little bit of corn, you're never going to feel satiated. and you're constantly going to be, inverted commas, overeating because your body's still trying to look for sugar, especially when you're eating foods like this. If ever you did, these 50% fat, 50% protein, whereas these are very high carbohydrate, low fat, low protein, and this just creates a bottomless pit of trying to satiate yourself, to be full, to be satiated. So you remove those, and yes, it can take weeks or months to adjust your taste buds, for your microbiome in your gut to change. Okay, so these are things that are going to be, the reason why you still want to eat these things like processed pizza. It's taste buds, microbiome. It's also, change is difficult as well. Going from things that to maybe things that you're a bit unsure about. Well, it actually becomes very easy. These things are very easy. People say, well, these are, convenient. Well, rice is very easy to cook. I've already shown that, you just need a rice cooker. So you don't need a hob, and you don't need oil when you're cooking your rice. Okay. So it's a rice cooker. So you don't need oil. Okay. You don't need oil when you're cooking. You don't need this. This is for the reason why oil exists. Okay. Just to explain that briefly. The reason why oil exists is to cook meat, because meat takes a higher temperature to cook to make it safe. So the reason why you cook these plant foods in water is because they only need the boiling point of 100 degrees or less. Okay? So they only need boiling point of water to cook. White rice only needs boiling point of water to cook. Whereas when you're having flesh, all of this protein, fat, you need higher temperatures, a higher boiling point. So oil boils at a higher boiling point than water. It needs more energy to cook these animal products. So that's where, using oil comes from. You're trying to cook at a higher temperature. And yeah, when you're cooking pizza, oily, fatty pizzas, you're putting it at a very high temperature, aren't you? So, this, for example, 220 degrees Celsius, 200 degrees fan. That's a very high temperature. If you were to put, corn, you put it in the microwave for a minute. Imagine what would happen to corn if you put just corn by itself in the oven, or if you put pasta in the oven by itself. It would just be a charred piece of carbon. But when you put oil on it, well, that changes things. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and like and subscribe. And in a previous video that I did recently, I said I'm not looking at the comments, at least for the foreseeable future, because when I'm promoting a channel that's promoting veganism, it gets a lot of hateful comments, because that's how the world is at the moment. So I'm still on the fence about looking at comments. But if you do have any comments, any questions, you can send me an email, and then I'll probably, I can make a video from that, as well as answering your questions. So there's an email in the description of the video for that purpose. But if you have any genuine questions, send it by email, not in the comments. At least at the moment, I'm just taking a break from looking at the comment section. So like and subscribe, and yeah, I hope I made that easier to realize, sugar and fat. These are the choices that we have to make. You can be a high carbohydrate, low fat, low protein vegan, or you can be a highly processed, high fat, high protein, low carbohydrate vegan. But the main thing is just be vegan. So vegan for the animals. So this is sort of vegan for your health. And then if you're eating, like this vegan pizza, this is sort of vegan for the animals, but then you can combine it. Okay, you combine it to make yourself look healthy. And then when you get healthy and lean as a vegan, you can then go around telling people, and they might listen to you more if you're slim and healthy looking rather than overweight. So that's why I'm always healthy looking, because I feel like people might listen to me more. But yeah, it's still very difficult. Anyway, thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.